There are always two sides to everything, just like a coin has two sides. Though it's one coin, we see it from two different angles. Similarly, in life, people often think about spirituality as something that makes you feel uplifted or high. Everyone is looking for ways to feel better, but true spirituality isn't about trying to feel high all the time. It's about avoiding the low points. If you don't let yourself get dragged down, you will naturally feel uplifted. When you're focused on trying to reach a higher state, it often means something is blocking you. This is the core message of deep spiritual teachings. There's a quote from the poet Rumi that's displayed at the Sanctuary of Wisdom in the Neurovascular Hospital in Chan. It goes something like this: "It's not about seeking love, but about finding what's standing in the way of it." Rumi's teachings are profound. They suggest that if you have to search for love, something is holding you back. You'll keep searching, reaching, and trying to find it. But if you focus on understanding why you don't feel love, what is blocking it, then love will come naturally. You don't have to do anything special. At the end of the spiritual journey, there's nothing left to do. Everything just exists as it is. Like, it's not about finding God or going to Him. It's about realizing you never left. You're already there, and you always have been. But your mind, heart, and personal struggles keep distracting you, pulling you away. In essence, you're choosing to be caught up with yourself instead of staying with God. So it's not about asking, how do I find God? Because you can't find Him when you're the one who wandered away. The real question is, why did I leave in the first place? When you figure out why you left and what's keeping you stuck in the lower states, you'll naturally rise up. Take the example of a hot air balloon. The balloon is filled with hot air or helium and is trying to rise. You don't need to add more air to it. Instead, you need to cut the ropes that are tying it down. Once those ropes are gone, the balloon will float upward on its own. You don't have to force it. This is exactly how spiritual growth works. But the question is, are people really ready for that? So what does this all mean? It means that sometimes you feel uplifted, open, or full of love. And when you do, you try to hold on to that feeling. It's natural to want to keep it. But instead of holding on to those moments, you should focus on what's bringing you down. Why do you feel the need to hold on to it in the first place? Is it because that feeling isn't your natural state? Are you forcing your way into a place where you don't feel you belong? The real question to ask is, what is holding you back? That's what true spirituality is all about. Eventually, you realize that every moment in your life offers a chance for spiritual growth. Either you're feeling high and good, or you're noticing what pulls you down. Some people say, "Oh, I had this amazing experience. I met a spiritual master, had a vision, or felt something special." But then ask a simple question. Why is everything you're talking about in the past? You say, "I had this experience," or "I saw that," or "I felt this way." But it happened years ago. Why isn't it happening now? What really interests is not what made you feel good before, but why you came back down afterward. Because I can tell you, the thing that lifted you up last time may not do it again in the future. Over time, you get used to these experiences, and they don't have the same effect. So instead of focusing on why you felt great, it's much more important to ask, why did the good feeling stop? This is key. If you can figure out why your positive feelings stopped, why your heart closed, you can stay in a state of love and openness all the time. You won't have to chase after those feelings anymore because they'll just be there naturally. But if you spend your time trying to create situations that make you feel love, you're missing the real issue. The heart, as we all know, doesn't stay open forever. At some point, it will close again. So, it's not about asking, what will make my heart open? Instead, ask, why does it close? Buddha said it best, work at the root. The root is what matters. Everything else, like flowers, might look pretty, but they don't last. So if you work on the root, everything above will grow naturally. But what does it mean to work at the root? It means changing the way you understand yourself. For example, have you ever been super excited or full of love about something, whether it's a relationship, a new job, or anything else? And then, after a while, that excitement fades. Maybe it even happens minutes later, not just years later. I'm sure it has happened, because it's a common experience. Now the real question isn't how do I get that excitement or love back? Instead, ask, why did it fade in the first place? Because it's your heart. Believe it or not, it opens and closes because of the choices you make, even if you don't realize it. Let's say someone didn't say exactly what you wanted to hear, or you start to doubt if you can trust them. Bam! Just like that, your heart closes. And it doesn't take much, does it? Just a small moment and the door shuts. So, it's not about trying to make people say exactly what you want to hear. That's a battle that never ends. Instead, you should ask yourself, why do I close off? Why do I feel the need to protect myself, especially when it makes me lose the very things I want, like love or enthusiasm? Why am I willing to give up love just to protect myself? What exactly am I protecting myself from? This is where your real work begins. You start questioning yourself. Why do I feel the need to protect myself? People often ask me, don't we need boundaries? We can't just let people walk all over us, right? We need to set limits and protect ourselves. But the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's more subtle than that. Why? Because when you feel the need to protect something, it's usually your ego you're trying to defend. You're not protecting your true self. You're protecting your ego. For example, you might think, I'm scared this person will leave me, so I need to protect myself. But what are you really protecting? You're guarding your own fears and insecurities, the very things that make you close off. Once you realize this, you might decide, I don't want to live like this anymore. But you'll also find that it's not easy to stop, and that's okay. It's actually a good thing to see how hard it is. This struggle shows you the real challenge. It's tough, but at least you're facing yourself and not blaming others. This is when you turn inward. Now, what do you do when you are feeling love or excitement, but then anxiety or fear starts creeping in? Maybe you were feeling too open, and now you're scared. You might think, I don't feel safe. So you have to decide, am I willing to give up love just to feel safe? Which side am I going to choose, the negative or the positive? Over time, you'll start to understand that keeping your heart open, even when it feels risky, is worth it. You'll say, I'm willing to take the risk of letting go of the reasons why I close my heart so I can keep it open. But what if you get hurt? The answer is, it's worth it. If you're always afraid of getting hurt, you'll never fully open up. You'll end up protecting yourself from love, from others, and even from yourself. You might say you love someone, but if you're not willing to take that risk, it's not complete love. Spiritually, you reach a point where you realize it's all about being willing to take the risk of not clinging to the lower parts of yourself. And yes, the lower parts of your being are strong. They want to protect you, to make you feel safe and in control. But that's just your ego talking. If you want to grow spiritually, you have to be willing to risk letting go of that false sense of security. You have to trust that opening your heart is worth the risk, even if it means getting hurt sometimes. That's when you'll truly start to experience the deeper meaning of love and life. You eventually reach a point where you admit, yes, there's a part of me that I really want to keep. I can't deny that. But I also see that this same part is what stops me from feeling love. It's the same part that keeps me from experiencing God. It's eye-opening when you realize that this is where your real work lies. Your work isn't about avoiding this part of yourself or trying to create situations where you don't have to face it. Your work is about directly dealing with it. So, let's say you've been feeling love, and then suddenly you start to feel closed off. You notice anxiety creeping in. Or maybe you just start feeling what I like to call weird. You know what I mean by that? It's that uncomfortable feeling inside. Your natural response is to try and fix it by changing something outside of yourself. You think, I don't want to deal with this feeling, so I'll do something to make it go away, to feel better. But until you actually face it, it's always going to come back. No matter what, it'll return. Many of the feelings you've been carrying around have probably been with you since you were a kid. That same part of you is still there, causing the same problems. So at some point you have to ask yourself, when am I going to stop letting this run my life? That's when you make the decision. This is my work. I don't care how hard it is, I'm going to work on this. People often call this the dark side or shadow self. There are many names for it. But what they're really talking about is that lower part of your being. It's the part that's always trying to protect you, but ends up taking away your life instead. Now, how do you deal with that? Let's say you notice that you're feeling anxious. You don't have to figure out why. It's not about understanding who said what or what triggered the feeling. That's just your mind trying to control the situation. You might think, if I can figure out why I feel anxious, I can fix it. If I understand what someone said or didn't say, or what I'm afraid of, I can gain control over it. But that's not the spiritual path. You'll probably find yourself doing this anyway, trying to analyze everything. That's okay, it's natural. But just for a moment, listen to what I'm saying. You don't need to figure it all out. Often we ask questions like, why did you say that to me? How could you say that? What are you really doing when you ask those questions? You're pestering someone because you want to make sure they never say it again. You want to find out why they acted that way so you can control the situation and prevent it from happening again. But that's not the way forward. Trying to control the outside world to stop your anxiety or discomfort doesn't solve the real issue. The real work is about dealing with your own inner reactions, not trying to change the people or situations around you. When you understand this, you begin to grow spiritually. A truly spiritual person, someone who has really developed spiritually, doesn't avoid or run away from their feelings of anxiety or fear. They don't look for someone else to blame. Instead, they look at those feelings inside themselves and work with them directly. This is where the real spiritual work happens. It's serious and important work. No matter how much you meditate or try to escape, eventually you come back to face those same inner feelings. The key question is not, what did someone else do to make me feel this way? Or, how can I make someone else act differently? The question is, what do I do about this feeling inside of me? Now, this is where you start using real spiritual techniques. The first thing you need to do is decide to work on this, and I hope these talks help you someday to make that decision. You have to think, why not start working on this today? That's the first step, the attitude or mindset. In Buddhism, they call this intent. Your intent is to deal with that part of you that can close off, that part of you that gets anxious or scared. You realize that it's going to take some work, but you're committed to doing it. This is really the purpose of your life, to reach a point where your heart no longer has a door that can close. Like I said before, it's not about having an open door in your heart. It's about having no door at all. You want to get rid of the door completely so it can never close again, no matter what happens around you. Wouldn't you want that? To always stay open and clear, no matter what life throws at you. That's what this work is all about. So you start by looking at your feelings. You notice the anxiety or the fear inside, and it usually affects your heart. Often it's connected to the third chakra, which is the center of ego energy. When that area tightens up, it causes your heart to close. Now it's your job to work with that feeling, to raise your energy, and keep yourself open. But to do that, you first need to be willing to face those uncomfortable feelings. You can't push them away or say, I don't want to feel this. You have to be willing to feel them. This doesn't mean you want to feel anxious or scared. It just means you're open to dealing with whatever comes up. You don't have to search for these feelings. Don't worry, they'll find you on their own. But when they do show up, you say, I am willing to feel this. Why? Because it's already there. It's part of your journey, like a hurdle in a race. Sure, you could run faster without hurdles, but that's not the point of the race. The real challenge is learning how to jump over those hurdles. So, how do you work with these feelings? As I said before, the first step is intent. This is a deep and powerful decision because your natural tendency is to protect yourself. We all try to protect that sensitive part of ourselves so nothing can bother it. But when you do that, you're actually keeping that part in control. You're saying, I want to protect this part. I want to keep it in charge. That's what happens when you avoid facing your fears or anxieties. You're giving them more power. So inside yourself, you start by saying, I want to lift this feeling so it doesn't keep happening, not because of this person or that situation, but because I want to change this part of me that is causing the problem. How do you begin? First, you have to set your intention. You make a decision that you want to deal with this. Then you look at the feeling. Can you sit quietly and notice when you feel weird or uncomfortable? I'm talking straight with you. Look at me. Because the truth is, nobody wants to feel discomfort. We don't like it when it's there. You might think, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. But here's the thing. If you refuse to feel discomfort, you'll keep doing things to protect the part of you that's feeling uncomfortable. And when you do that, the discomfort will always be there. It's as simple as that. So, you need to tell yourself, I am willing to work with this part of me. I'm not going to blame anyone or anything else. It's inside me, so I need to figure out what to do with it. The first step is to center yourself and say, I can handle this discomfort. Notice I didn't say, I can make it go away. I said, I can handle it being there. Think about it like this. If you have a child who's misbehaving, and you can handle their behavior without getting upset, then you have a chance of working with them and improving the situation. The same idea applies here. You center yourself, get clear, and acknowledge the discomfort. You're not ignoring it, and you're not getting lost in it. Instead, you sit in the highest part of yourself that you can reach, and you observe it. You say to yourself, okay, here it is. Then a helpful question to ask yourself is, have I ever felt this feeling before? I can promise you that the answer will always be yes. You've lived with this kind of feeling in one way or another throughout your life. Do you understand that? Different situations might trigger it, but it's always been there. Now you're finally ready to face it and work with it. So how do you actually work with it? First, as I mentioned earlier, you need to have a strong intention. You want to resolve this. You don't want this uncomfortable energy living inside you forever. Once you have that intention, you need to be clear and centered enough to do the real work. So how do you do that? The key is to relax. Always relax. Relaxing is the first and most important step. When you feel discomfort or anxiety, your natural reaction is to tense up and resist it. But instead, you need to train yourself to do the opposite. Relax your body, relax your mind, and let the feeling be there without fighting it. This is how you begin to work with that discomfort, rather than letting it control you. The answer is always to relax. Why? Because anxiety doesn't know how to relax. Tension doesn't know how to relax. Insecurity doesn't know how to relax. These feelings are all about tightness and closing up, right? You can't force them to relax. That's the point I'm trying to make. You can't make anxiety stop being anxious. You can't make jealousy stop being jealous. You can't make insecurity stop being insecure. It's simply their nature. Everything has its own nature, and that's the nature of these feelings. So what can you do? You relax. You, the one who is experiencing the anxiety, relax around it. You allow it to be there, but you, the real you, stay comfortable. Here's something that might surprise you. You need to learn how to be comfortable, even when you're uncomfortable. You, the consciousness, are aware that there's discomfort, and that's okay. You don't try to push it away or use techniques to get rid of it. Instead, you acknowledge it. It's like having a small cut on your hand. You don't pretend it's not there. You accept that, yes, you've got a cut on your hand. In the same way, you accept, yes, I have anxiety in my heart. It's there and I'm okay with that. Now that doesn't mean you're going to leave it there forever, but you need to be okay with it first, so you can observe it clearly and work with it objectively. So, when you feel discomfort, no matter what it is, whether you call it anxiety or something else, you recognize it. You see that it's been a part of your life for a long time. Maybe it showed up in different forms or for different reasons, but it's always been there. The difference now is that you're conscious enough to work through it. You're ready to stop letting it control your life. Wouldn't that be nice? But here's the thing. Only you can do that. No matter who you meet, how much money you make, or how great your job is, none of that will fix the issue. All those external things can do is help you avoid dealing with what's really inside you. For example, maybe you were full of anxiety and jealousy, but now you feel better because you trust someone. But that won't last forever. Why? Because you didn't actually deal with the root of the problem. You used the situation to cover up your feelings instead of facing them. To really change, you have to work on yourself, not hide behind external things. Relaxing and being okay with discomfort is the first step toward freeing yourself from these emotions. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore what's happening outside of you. Of course, you'll still deal with things in your life, and it's okay if those things make you feel better for a while. I'm glad if that happens. But the important part is that you work with what's going on inside when those difficult feelings show up. So let's say you're feeling anxious. Now what? The first thing you do is try to relax. I mean it seriously. Relax. Why? Because when you're relaxed, you stay open, but when you tense up, you close off. So don't fight the anxiety by tensing up. Even if your heart feels closed, try to relax the parts of your body around it. Don't force the heart to relax right away. Start small. Relax your shoulders, your stomach, even your hips. What's next? Keep relaxing. Let go a little more. Keep softening your body, one part at a time. The more you relax, the more distance you create between yourself and what you're feeling. Now, instead of being totally caught up in the anxiety, you can say, here I am, and there's the anxiety. You start to get some space between you and the feeling. These feelings are part of you, and the goal is to raise them up, not push them away. That energy inside you, the anxiety or tension, can actually be transformed into something higher. It's called transmutation of energy. So instead of trying to get rid of it, you sit with it and understand it. Look at that anxiety and realize that over the course of your life, things happened that you didn't know how to handle. You pushed those feelings down, trying to hide or avoid them. That's why you've stored up all this emotional baggage. Now, because of that, your heart is really sensitive. It's like a wounded spot that gets triggered easily, and you feel tension or insecurity. So the first thing you need to do is take responsibility for it. Don't blame anyone else. Accept that in the past, you didn't know how to handle things, and you ended up bottling them up. Then look at that part of yourself with compassion and understanding. It's like if you locked a crying child in a closet because you couldn't handle their emotions. That child would be hurt and scared. And when you finally let them out, even if you say, I love you, it's okay, that child isn't going to trust you right away. They're still hurt. In the same way, that wounded part of you needs gentle care and understanding. You can't just expect it to heal instantly. A therapist is trained to give people space when they need it. They don't rush in with hugs or try to immediately fix things by saying, it's all okay now. That wouldn't mean much. Instead, they sit quietly and allow the person to feel comfortable with their presence. You should treat yourself the same way, especially when dealing with the uncomfortable parts of yourself, what we might call your lower self. Look at that part of you with compassion and understanding. You can even talk to it, saying something like, I'm sorry I pushed you down all those years. I didn't know any better back then. I wasn't ready to deal with things, so I buried you under all this pain and fear. But now, I want us to have a better relationship. I'm your friend. It's a slow process, and it'll happen in its own time, at a pace that feels right for you. The key is to change how you view the parts of yourself that make you uncomfortable, the parts that seem strange, awkward, or that have caused problems in your life. These are the parts of you that might have hurt your relationships because they made you say or do things you later regretted. Be honest with yourself. How often has this happened? But instead of getting angry or upset with those parts, you start to work with them. You develop a relationship that's based on understanding and kindness. So how do you begin? As I mentioned before, relax. Really try to relax your body and mind. When you relax, it becomes easier to work with those feelings. Simple things like focusing on your breathing can help. Take deep breaths and pay attention to how it feels. As you do this, you might feel energy or pressure building up, which is okay. What you're doing is helping to open up that tight, closed-off part of yourself. You're not trying to force anything, but you're gently working with your body and your energy to help it open up. Another thing that helps a lot is using a mantra. You may have learned about mantras before, but maybe didn't fully understand how powerful they can be. Now, when you use a mantra, you're not just following some rule or doing it because someone told you to. You're using it as a tool to help calm the mind and soothe that anxious, scared part of yourself. The mind often focuses on what's wrong, constantly replaying worries and fears. But when you use a mantra like God, Christ, Guru, Universe, or whatever works for you, it helps redirect your thoughts. You're not ignoring the fear or discomfort. You're just giving your mind something else to hold on to, something steady and calming. You're talking to that part of you that's scared, offering it peace and reassurance through the mantra. This way, you're not fighting against your thoughts or feelings. You're gently guiding them to a place where you can begin to heal. I know it might feel overwhelming, and it might even make you cry just thinking about it. Imagine there's this tight, uncomfortable feeling inside you. Instead of pushing it away or fighting it, you're trying to deal with it directly. You say, "It's okay, I've got this. I'll take care of you." But here's the thing, expressing every little bit of that emotion is not the healthiest approach either. People say it's better than keeping it all bottled up, and while that's true, the more you feed into it, the more energy you give it. What you really need to do is rise above it. Don't sink down into those heavy feelings. Just connect with them enough to acknowledge them. You've built a relationship with this closed-off part of yourself, the part that's holding on to these emotions. When it starts to surface, instead of freaking out, you can gently say, "I can handle this. I'll take care of you." It's like telling yourself, "I'm here for you," because you are. Imagine reaching out as if you're lifting up this emotional weight with your hands. These are powerful spiritual techniques. They might seem intense, but they're deep and meaningful, not strange. Over time, you'll be able to sit with these feelings and work through them. It won't happen overnight, and it's not as simple as taking a few deep breaths and expecting all the pain to vanish, unless you're some kind of enlightened master. So you practice breathing, or maybe you repeat a mantra, something that resonates with you. Eventually, you'll feel more at ease, and the emotion will start to loosen its grip a little. At that point, you can go deeper. You reach underneath all that mess and gently lift it up. Whether you call it offering it to God or releasing it into the universe, it doesn't matter. The universe is huge. It can handle all your baggage. You're not going to dirty it up. Trust me. You can't pollute God or the universe. So you lift up that heavy stuff and offer it as a gift. And let me tell you, this is real devotion. Offering up the darkest parts of yourself is more meaningful than giving flowers or anything material. You're not asking for help or begging for it to be taken away. You're offering it because you're strong enough to carry it. And that's your gift. You have the power to change things within yourself, whenever you want. I hope you're really hearing me here. You're the only one living inside your mind, your heart. That inner world, it's all yours. And what I'm talking about is changing your inner world, making it a regular practice. Anytime you feel yourself closing up, you have the ability to deal with it. Now, it's not always the right time to work on it. Like when you're in the middle of a job or in the heat of an argument, it might not go so well. But when you step away, when you can quiet your mind, that's when you should work with it. Your mind will often try to convince you that you were right, that whatever upset you is justified. But no, that's not the point. All that energy is stuck in your lower chakras, around the third and the lower part of the fourth chakra. When you feel yourself closing off, feeling weird, or your energy is off, that's the moment to notice what's happening. Now, that discomfort? It's actually a good thing. You have to learn to appreciate it, to recognize it as an opportunity. This is your chance to work through the things that have been weighing you down, the lower parts of your being that are holding you back. Remember how I said you can either keep trying to lift yourself up or let go of what's keeping you down? Letting go of the things holding you down is the higher path, the more powerful one. As you work through these feelings, you'll discover something incredible. You're fully capable of helping yourself. You can heal. You can lift yourself up. And the more you practice, the more you'll realize you don't have to be scared of things that make you feel weird or uncomfortable. Instead, you start using those moments as a way to grow, as a way to connect with something higher, like God or the universe. You're turning those negative experiences into something positive and constructive. And eventually, after practicing for a while, you'll be able to face those uncomfortable feelings and say, I love this. You might not be able to say that right away, because you can't lie to yourself, but eventually, you will. What do you love? You love the pain, the discomfort, the weirdness. You love that these feelings are happening because they're giving you an opportunity to grow. It's like learning to love the weather, even the storms. I remember living in Miami as a kid, and when hurricanes came, we used to watch them from the window in awe. You can love things that used to scare you or frustrate you. So start with affirmations. I love this. I love this weird feeling. I love what's happening inside me. Look at your heart, even if it feels like a mess, and say, I love it. This is a chance to work on myself. Using positive thinking like this keeps you in a place where you can keep working on yourself. And over time, what happens? You'll realize you're in control. You're the one who created everything happening inside you. You're the one who couldn't handle certain things, so you closed off, you pushed them away. You built up that weirdness, you tried to protect yourself. But now you know it's all in your hands. The outside world was just triggering what was already there. You're the one in charge of your inner world, and you can change it. When you truly become spiritual, every moment of your life is about lifting up the lower parts of yourself. Now, what happens when you finally let go of that heavy energy? It transforms into something higher, more powerful. This process is called transmutation. It might sound mystical and complicated, but all it really means is that when you push uncomfortable feelings away, you're trapping energy inside of you. Imagine a house full of blocked energy. That's what you've created by holding on to past experiences. Now, every event you've been through, your parents' divorce, breaking up with someone, losing a friend, those were all situations that brought energy into you. Everything is energy, right? It comes in and it's supposed to pass through. But when you didn't let those feelings pass, you held on to them, trapping that energy inside. Now think about this. How much energy did it take for you to resist those feelings? Physics tells us that it takes an equal and opposite force. So the same amount of energy it took to push those experiences away is now locked inside of you. Picture the Hoover Dam holding back the Colorado River. It takes just a tiny bit more power than the force of the river to stop it. If the dam's power wasn't strong enough, the river would break through. The same thing is happening inside of you. That energy, whether it's fear, anxiety, or pain from something bad that happened, is still flowing inside you. It's energy, and you feel it even if you try to push it down. But here's the thing. You have to use your own energy, your life force, your chai, your inner power, to hold that emotional energy down. And you have to keep holding it down for as long as you resist letting it go. It won't disappear on its own. That energy is stuck inside you until you're ready to release it. Think of the Colorado River. It's still pushing against the Hoover Dam with the same force as when it was first built. The river wants to flow, and the dam has to constantly hold it back. That's what's happening with the energy inside of you. Every painful experience, every moment you didn't allow yourself to fully feel, is still trying to flow through you, but you're holding it all back. Over time, these little things pile up. Someone didn't say the right thing, a friend let you down, it rained on your birthday. All these moments get stored inside. You may try to act like these things don't bother you, but deep down, you're holding on to them. And that's why you feel that heaviness inside, because you've kept all that energy trapped instead of letting it flow. So, here's what's going on. You have this natural energy inside you that's supposed to lift you up, to help you grow and feel alive. But instead of using it for that, you're spending it all just to hold down the pain and uncomfortable feelings you couldn't deal with in the past. What happens then? You end up with even more problems inside. To deal with that, you use another layer of energy on top of what you're already spending. It's no wonder some people run out of energy altogether. They become so overwhelmed, traumatized, and depressed that they can't function properly. They can't speak. They can't move forward in life. They're stuck because they've used up all their energy in trying to suppress the original energy that's been trapped. Think about that for a second. You're using your life force, which should be helping you thrive, just to keep all these emotions and past hurts locked away. And once you've drained so much of your energy, you've got to figure out how to protect those blockages from being triggered by the outside world. You start to think, how do I avoid situations that might bring up all this stuff I'm trying to hide? So instead of just dealing with it, you spend even more energy trying to control and manipulate your environment, avoiding anything that might bring those feelings back to the surface. It's like living your life walking on eggshells. You're constantly thinking, how do I stop people or situations from hitting these sensitive spots? You're in survival mode. It's exhausting. Honestly, it's surprising you have any energy left at all. The truth is, compared to who you really are deep down, you've got almost nothing left. And that's why you don't feel your true self. You're a powerful, energetic being. But all that power has been used up, holding back everything you couldn't deal with. You've buried so much, and it's still there, trying to come up. It pops up in your dreams. It comes out when someone says the wrong thing and you immediately think, don't touch my stuff. Sigmund Freud talked about this, how we carry these issues from childhood all the way through life. So, all that energy is locked up, and you're constantly holding it down. It's like the Hoover Dam. If the dam wasn't there, the Colorado River would burst through without hesitation. The same is happening inside you. If you stop holding back, those old feelings will flood right out. But you don't let them. Instead, you keep using all your energy to keep everything repressed. And because this takes so much of your energy, you're left feeling unhappy. You're not experiencing love, joy, or excitement in life. You feel guilt, or maybe you feel empty. So what do? You spend even more energy trying to figure out how to avoid dealing with yourself. You think, if I just get a great job, or earn a degree, or date the right person, or buy the right things, then maybe I'll feel okay. But that takes energy too, right? You've got to plan, strategize, and put in effort to chase all these external things in the hopes they'll make you feel better. But here's the thing. Even after you figure out what you think will make you happy, you still have to go out and make it happen. You're constantly working, striving, trying to fill that void inside. And that's a huge drain on your energy, so what are we really doing here? You're using all your life force just to keep yourself from dealing with the real problem, your unresolved emotions and blockages, and it's wearing you out. It's a huge waste of energy, your life force, your inner strength, when you get caught up in all the struggles of being human, fighting with yourself, trying to force everyone and everything around you to be a certain way. That's where all your energy goes. That's what happens when you don't understand how energy works. So what should you do instead? Start by focusing on the part of you that feels hurt, sensitive, or closed off. That's where the real issue lies. Sure, you could change things on the surface, like giving up something or making outward adjustments, but those are just distractions. They're 7 steps away from the core problem. The root of it all is that you don't know how to handle your own emotions and thoughts. The key is to calm yourself enough so that you can observe what's happening inside you without getting caught up in it. This allows you to work on yourself in a meaningful way. And trust me, it will work. Just like with a plant, if you nourish the root, everything else falls into place. Think of those carnations that are dyed with stripes. They put the dye at the root, and it spreads through the whole flower. That's how you need to approach your inner work. When you deal with the root of your being, everything else gets better naturally. You know exactly where that root is. It's the part of you that you try to avoid, the part you don't want to face. But if you begin to gently work with it, little by little, you'll see change. The ancient text, the Bhagavad Gita, says we should lift ourselves up with our own self, not crush ourselves down. It teaches that the self can either be our best friend or our worst enemy. And this happens when we recognize the higher self, our true essence, and the lower self, the personal ego-driven self. Your job is to raise the lower self, bring it up to the higher self. I've given you techniques to do this. They're real tools for working with yourself, not just ideas. As you use them, you'll find that the relationship with your lower self changes. Eventually, you won't feel like you're at war with yourself. Instead, you'll make peace. There's a powerful moment that happens when that lower, troubled part of you stops causing chaos and starts reaching out to you for comfort. Instead of acting out, manipulating, or causing problems, it will realize that you are its source of safety and support. You become your own protector. Instead of that part of you running wild, it trusts you. You'll feel that connection within yourself, and that's when real inner peace begins. The great master once said, "Receive me in the lap of the Divine Mother." What he meant was, I'm just a child with problems, but the Divine Mother is inside of me. That's you, your consciousness. When you start to reach up, that's when your energy begins to change direction. Right now, without even realizing it, your energy is constantly flowing downward and outward, going out into the world, constantly being drained. But when your lower self stops resisting and starts looking up, the energy shifts. Suddenly, instead of flowing down and out, it's moving up inside you. You don't have to force it, it just happens. The energy flows upward, and with it comes love, joy, and bliss. Your lower self, that part of you that caused all kinds of trouble, starts to realize, hey, life is actually better when I'm in sync with the higher part of me. It stops fighting and joins you, supporting you instead of dragging you down. When this happens, your lower self transforms, and that energy that was being used to hold it down becomes fuel for your growth. It starts lifting you up. It's a beautiful experience, and once the energy starts flowing upward, everything changes. I love spending time with that energy flow. Why? Because it's so pure and beautiful. When you feel love, excitement, or joy, that's the flow of Shakti, your life force. But this is even more special because it's pure Shakti rising within you for no particular reason, just because you've stopped resisting. What you'll notice is, if you give in to those lower energies like fear, anger, or desire, the upward flow of Shakti stops. That's why Shakti becomes your teacher, guiding you toward what's right and away from what's harmful. Think of it like this. You've learned how to eat in a way that makes you feel good. Not perfect, but reasonably healthy. Now, if you go and eat junk food like a bunch of soda and snacks, you're going to feel terrible afterward. For a moment, it might taste good, but soon enough, you've got a stomachache. It's the same with the energy inside you. When you act in ways that lower your energy, like indulging in negative habits, you feel bad. You stop doing it, not because someone tells you to, but because you realize it's not worth it. People often ask, how do I know what to do? The answer is, you'll naturally know. The flow of Shakti will guide you. How do I know what to eat? Well, how do animals in the wild know not to eat poisonous plants? They don't memorize anything or read books. They just sense the energy. The same is true for us. When you tune in to the flow of energy, you'll instinctively know what's right for you. So trust that inner flow, that upward energy, and let it guide you. You'll find that when you follow it, life feels lighter, more joyful, and more aligned with your higher self. You will start to feel the energy inside you more clearly. For example, when you approach food that isn't good for you, you'll feel it even before you take a bite. The energy will feel off, and you'll know to walk away. When you come near food that's right for you, it'll feel natural, like you're drawn to it. You'll feel a pull, as if that food is exactly what your body needs. But right now, many people eat junk food because they're anxious or scared. They use food to cope with their emotions. However, once you become more aware of your energy, you'll start noticing what feels good and what doesn't. No one will need to tell you. It'll be obvious. Your energy will guide you, and you'll become more in tune with it. You'll start listening because if you don't, you'll feel off or sick on the inside. But if you do listen, you'll feel amazing. And who wouldn't want to feel great? As you continue to listen to your inner energy, it becomes a natural part of your life. It's a beautiful process. Someone once said, when you're in tune with yourself, God will guide you in everything. What to wear, what to eat, what to say. What they meant is that you'll feel the energy, the Shakti, shifting inside you, and you'll just know what's right. And the best part is, that feeling is always correct. People might wonder, will the energy ever lead me into something hard? The answer is yes, because it's trying to free you from your blockages. Sometimes you'll need to go through challenges to let go of what's holding you back. You might not always choose those tough moments, but you'll end up there because it's necessary for your growth. It's part of the process of working with yourself and raising your energy. Some people ask, does this mean I can't have relationships, make money or work? No, it doesn't mean you have to give up those things. It just means you don't let the lower part of your being, the part that's driven by fear or insecurity, run your life. You still live your life, but you do it with awareness. You do your best to rise above the lower urges that try to control you. The truth is, most people are letting that lower part of themselves take over. That's why the world is the way it is. Why do people fight, go to war, or hurt each other? Because they can't handle themselves. They try to create situations that make them feel more comfortable instead of facing their inner issues. The lowest part of their being is running the show, and that's why the world is in chaos. If we all learned to raise ourselves up and work with our energy, things would be very different. Be different. Don't let the lowest part of yourself control your life. Instead, work with that part of you. Lift it up as best as you can. When you do this, something amazing happens. Eventually, the energy inside you starts to flow upwards on its own. The insecurity you once felt will transform into strength because you've cleared some of the blockages. As you keep working with yourself, you'll notice that more and more of this energy starts rising up naturally. With time, this energy will become a constant part of your life. It won't just happen occasionally, it will be with you every moment. It will flow upwards, and you'll feel it all the time. That's why people used to say, keep your focus at the point between your eyebrows and don't look away. This point, which connects to the higher spiritual centers in your body, the 6th and 7th chakras, is where energy flows when you're at your best. At a certain point, you won't even have to focus on it. The energy will pour into this space constantly, every second of your life. You won't have to force anything because you've already done the hard work at the lower levels of your being. As you clear those blockages, everything starts to happen naturally. That upward energy flow will take you further and further. You won't have to do anything special for it. It just happens. And when it does, you'll see that everything we talked about before was only the beginning of true spirituality. The things you thought were big before, they'll seem small in comparison. Once this energy starts flowing, your consciousness won't want to go back down anymore. It will naturally lift higher. You won't feel the need to be pulled down by old habits, doubts, or fears. Instead, you'll be carried upwards, feeling constant bliss, ecstasy, and love. Life itself will seem to just take care of everything. The right people will show up when you need them. The right situations will unfold perfectly, even if they seem wrong at first. You'll look back and realize that everything worked out exactly as it needed to. You'll see that life is perfect, but it's your own inner garbage, your fears, insecurities, and desires for control that made things seem wrong. As you let go of that baggage, you stop wanting things to be a certain way. Why would you? You're already filled with love and ecstasy. Challenges will still come your way, but you'll start to understand that these problems are not something to fear. They are a part of life, a way to grow and rise even higher. The ancient teachings called them the nectar of life, because they help you grow. When things go wrong, it's not because the universe is against you. It's because you're seeing life through the filter of your own issues. For example, if you feel insecure, you might think no one likes you. But that's not true. It's just your insecurity projecting itself onto the world. The world is reflecting back what's inside of you. When you clear that internal clutter, you'll see life for what it really is. Beautiful, balanced, and full of opportunities to grow. You won't need to force anything. Everything will just flow. And you'll feel more alive and in harmony with the universe than ever before. That's great because when challenges come, you'll learn how to handle them. These things will keep showing up and you're gonna have to deal with them. And as you keep handling things, you'll grow stronger. The more you face these challenges, the higher you'll rise. Over time, you'll start to understand how this all works. It's a beautiful process. Life itself is beautiful. Life is like a teacher. It's showing you the way. Everything's happening naturally. You don't need to force it. You just gotta let go. Let go of who you think you are. Jesus said, "You have to die to be reborn." That's pretty much what I'm talking about. He's right. You gotta let that personal, selfish part of yourself go. You have to shed that old skin to grow spiritually, to rise up. I started thinking, are you trying to push yourself higher while still holding on to the things weighing you down? Or are you going to let go of those things holding you back? As Jesus said, you have to die to be reborn. That's what he meant, and he was spot on. This journey is beautiful. Life is a beautiful process. Earth is like a school where souls come to grow and evolve. So how's your growth going? Because let's be real, a lot of people aren't trying to evolve. That might sound harsh, but the truth is, most people are just trying to get things to stay the way they want them so they don't have to feel uncomfortable. They don't want to grow or change. They're saying, I don't want to change. There's this saying by Einstein, it's in a wisdom center somewhere, where he says, in order to change, you have to be willing to let go of who you are. And Einstein was a smart guy. There's no way to grow without change. You can't stay the same and expect to grow, right? You have to be willing to give up parts of yourself to evolve. So you eventually realize, life is pulling me through something bigger than myself. It's guiding you through growth. But are you willing to go with it, or are you fighting it? Are you saying, I need things to stay the way I want them to be? That's all because of your fears and blockages. You want things to stay a certain way, people to act a certain way, your finances and health to be a certain way, everything in life to be frozen just so you can feel okay. But if everything stays the same, you'll never grow. That's not the point of being on Earth. Earth is a place for souls to evolve. Nothing grows without changing. A plant can't grow without changing. Your body went through changes as you grew up. Nothing stays the same and still grows, but most people are too scared to change. That fear inside wants to stay locked up, untouched, hidden behind walls. But if you don't let go, If you stay stuck, you won't grow. You won't evolve. So here's the deal. You got to work on yourself to grow and evolve. And while you're doing that, the world keeps moving, doing its thing. The real question is, can you handle what life throws at you? That's it. Can you deal with reality as it comes? If not, that's your chance to let go of the part of you that can't handle it. Now let me make this clear. Letting go doesn't mean you ignore your problems. It just means you don't deal with them as a way to protect yourself or avoid facing your own issues. You still face the situation, but you do it without all that baggage. When stuff happens, you acknowledge it. Maybe let go of the stuff that's holding you back, and then say, okay, I'm good now. Let's keep moving. Then you ask yourself, is there something I need to do right now? It's already hit you, messed with your head a little, but you cleared that out. So now, what's next? Is there actually something you need to do in this moment? Here's the thing. Most of the time, like 90 to 95% of the time, the answer is no. The only reason you felt like you had to do something was because you couldn't handle what was happening. You got upset, couldn't deal with someone's words or the situation, so you thought you had to act to make yourself feel better. That's not a good reason to act. The better approach is to chill, get through it, and then ask, all right, now do I really need to do something? Sometimes the answer is yes. Let's say your boss comes in hot, yelling at you about a project plan. You didn't even make the plan. Your co-worker did. But your boss is mad at you anyway. Inside you're freaking out, wanting to scream, "It wasn't me!" Or just avoid the whole thing. But instead of reacting, you let it go. You chill. Now that you've let that emotional mess go, is there something you need to do? Yeah. Your boss gave you instructions, so go handle that. The beauty of this is, once you let go of your ego and all the personal drama, you know exactly what needs to be done. And here's the key. You don't do it to make the boss happy or to protect your co-worker. You do it because everything in the universe has a flow, a rhythm. Just like the planets are held in place by gravity and centrifugal force, everything in life has a purpose and is doing something. So when you let go of your own drama, you can tap into that flow and know exactly what to do. Here's the thing. This is your job, your responsibility. It doesn't matter what the task is. This is what you're supposed to be doing right now. Think of it like this. Imagine God comes down and says, "Hey, can you handle this for me? I'm running the universe, and this is your part to help out." That's the mindset you need. But you can't do it properly if you're caught up in your own personal drama, likes, dislikes, or ego. You start thinking, I don't want to do this. This ain't fair. Why should I have to? All that stuff is about you, about I. The key is to get past yourself. When you let go of your personal baggage, you can truly serve. You do the job not for yourself, but because it's what's in front of you. And I'm telling you, if you try this out, you'll see it's real. I'm not the only one who knows this. It's part of the Tao. It's about taking action, not because you want something from it, but because it's what's been given to you. You'll find that one thing leads to the next and then to the next, and before you know it, you see the universe is working perfectly. Just think about nature. The rain waters the forest, the trees grow, and the cycle continues. But it doesn't rain when you want it to or stop when you wish. That's because your personal desires, your I, mess with how you see the world. When you let go of that ego and stop letting it run your life, you'll start to notice how harmonious the universe is. Your job is to simply do what's in front of you without expecting any kind of reward. Now, imagine if God literally appeared to you like he did to Moses with the burning bush and said, "Here, do this." You wouldn't do it for some reward. You'd do it because it's what you're supposed to be doing. You'd put your whole heart into it. From that moment on, everything you do becomes an act of service, an act of devotion. Not because you need something, but because it feels right to handle what's given to you. Whether it's taking out the trash, doing your homework, or brushing the dog. Whatever the task is, you approach it with the same devotion. The trick is to stop letting your ego, the lowest part of yourself, run the show. That's the first step. Your life shouldn't be controlled by that part of you. But here's the thing. You don't just throw that part away or ignore it. You work with it, show it compassion, and help it grow. If that part of you is scared or anxious, like being nervous about giving a speech, you reassure yourself. You say, "We're going to be okay. We're going to have fun." You keep helping that part of yourself grow, and that's a lifelong process. And what's the result of this? Over time, you'll see a change. Your energy will shift, and it'll be obvious. You'll become a person full of light. And when you reach that point, your whole life transforms into something beautiful. You live to serve, and you realize that's where true fulfillment comes from. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. Not, think what you want and attract it to yourself. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. How do you do that? By letting go of yourself. And all things will happen naturally. Thank you for listening.